I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and sometimes it just gets insufferable. There are these people who are just always complaining, and Indian parents also make this mistake. So when we grow up, we've taught that anybody who's made good money has been evil to get it. He's killed somebody, he's scammed somebody, he's stolen it away from somebody else, and we don't see money as a measure of what it truly is. In this video, I'm going to tell you the difference between how rich people see capital or money and other people see money. Let's just divide these two people into woke and broke. So woke people, typically rich people, see money as a measure of contribution. If you go back and read the history of money, all the way back from Seychelles, money was an IOU. You have given me this cow, so I'm going to give you this, so that tomorrow if you want something worth this cow, I will give it back to you. Barter system was just too cumbersome for us, right? To carry 3-4 cows to the market every day and exchange it for somebody else's apples, it was so cumbersome. So we used money as a way where you could store this value. It was an IOU. I owe you something. And that's what money is. It's a measure of contribution. That's how woke people think about it. They understand this. If you add value to somebody else's life, you will get paid in return. Broke people believe that money is something that you use to buy things, right? They believe that money comes from the sky or the government, right? Or you do a job and they give you money. It's something that is owed to you, and you take that money and you can buy something with it. They purely see it as a medium of exchange. The next thing is that woke or rich people have the attitude that they can make unlimited amounts of money. Like, for example, I don't worry if there's a big expense because I know I can generate extra amount to cover that expense, right? It's an abundance mindset, right? I know I can always make more money, always. Whereas poor people, for them, money is capped at their salary. And by poor, I don't mean somebody who doesn't have too much money right now. I mean the mindset. Because you could be extremely rich and still have a very poor mindset, and vice versa. Many rags to riches stories have existed in India over the last 30-40 years. Now, when you think that the amount of money you can make is capped at salary, you get into optimization mode. You're like, I can only make 20,000. This rent, where I was paying 10,000, I now have to haggle and negotiate with my landlord to try and bring it to 9,500. Essentially, what they do is they're trying to crunch everything into their budget. The problem with that is this budget is actually imaginary. It's set by an employer. It's set by a negotiation with the employer. If you had negotiated with the employer instead of negotiating with your cook and maybe your landlord, then you probably would have had more of a budget. And that's what you have to realize, right? These people think that people paying them are at a much higher power table than them, whereas a landlord is not. Maybe, there's a smaller power table between landlord and you versus the employer and you, which is not true. It's absolutely not true. In fact, if you are skilled, if you add value to the company you work at, then you can negotiate and ask for whatever you want. In fact, if the employer runs out of a budget, you can do multiple gigs. You can take another job or take another side gig and have more of a budget to make as much capital as you want. Now, financially woke people treat money as somewhat like a game. And I'm not saying this in a bad way, right? They're not making a mockery out of money. They respect the dollar, they respect the money, but they know that making money is sort of like a competition. If I'm running a medical store, and maybe down the road there's another medical store, there are two ways for me to approach this. One is I just laze around, I have this property, I'm okay with making, say, how much ever the medical store makes. The other way is I'm active about it and I want to win. I put up a nice big billboard and I say, this medical store, I give better discounts, right? I'm always pushing people there. I'm nicer to my customers. Over time, which medical store do you think is going to survive? Obviously, the one that is better to its customers. Because customers vote with their capital, believe it or not. I said this many times before. When you spend money, it's about trust, right? You can get people to spend large amounts of money if they really trust you. Unfortunately, the financially broke think completely differently, right? Their attitude is, there is a limited amount of money to make in the world, and I can't improve my performance to make any more money. So they would rather think like communists and say, I will just put in 10 hours of work or 8 hours of work, whenever I have to leave the office, I'll just put in that many hours of work and scoop. This is the maximum amount of money I make, and they will usually pick up government jobs because they know that they can laze around for those 8 hours. It is wiser for you to work hard and be noticed by your employers and work at a private firm that wants to grow by itself, where the attitude of let's beat our competitors exists, rather than a government firm. Have you ever gone and tried to change your Aadhaar card details? Have you ever done that? Because I've done that. It took me 6 hours. And the people behind the counter had lunch 3 times.
आप ऐसा
Time
करो
basically does not move. And that's because
ये
nobody
आप
cares.
छोटी बैग रख
There's
दो
no
आपको दूसरा आम
incentive for
काट
you
के
to
दे
do
दो
better.
मुझे
It's also the government agency's fault because the government agency really doesn't care. They are not going to pay their employees better if they turn around people faster. They don't incentivize them for the right
और
reasons.
ऐसा करना
And I also blame the employees because
ये
it is
अगर
much
मिले
wiser
दूसरा
for you to
ऐसा
find a
तो बोले
private
उसकी
company
बैटरी
that wants to
बदलनी है
win
ऐसा कोई दूसरा
rather than
चार्जर
a
वो
government
ले दो
agency that wants to stall. The next thing is that financially woke people play co-op games. Now there's a novel quote on this, right? Play long-term games with long-term people. This is somewhat similar to what I've seen the financially woke do. In fact, if you see all the top founders, influencers, VC, they've all formed networks with each other. I once met the CEO of one of the richest real estate companies in India. And he was talking about building a platform. And he said, hey, I can get my competitors on as well. And I was like, hey, but don't you compete with those people? He's like, yeah, but over dinner, we're friends. And that's the mindset to have. It's a game. You're competing in a game. The game does not mean I'll kill you. The game means I want to beat you, but we'll still shake hands at the end of the day. With poor people, it's if you make money, you're taking away my share. It's a very zero-sum mentality. I would rather do it myself because I don't want you to win. Right? I've seen this happen a lot. It's called self-sabotage. Maybe you're making 50,000 rupees and your partner is making 52,000 rupees. Maybe that angers you and you're jealous because of it. And you ruin the entire business and now both of you make zero. I've seen this attitude a lot. This is the broke mindset. Now, the next thing I've seen is I've typically seen with scientists and entrepreneurs and some of the best people in the world. They have the mindset of earning to learn. They will earn to learn. So they don't mind spending a lakh on an experiment to see what happens. Whereas the broke people have learned something in college and because of that they're earning. There's no future learning in their life. So what they're doing is they've gone through a degree and they only go through the degree or college or whatever course to get a job at the end. And that's it. Once they get the job, they're earning. So there's no longer any learning in their life. Compare that to rich people or the rich mindset people who are using all their capital to learn as much about their life as possible, to learn as much about the world as possible. I spend so much of my money on research, on buying things where I can hack my brain, so that I can learn more about the world. I buy so many physics textbooks. I spend money on it. But somebody who has a broke mindset will never do that. In fact, they'll say, I finished college. What's the purpose of learning any more now? Don't be that person. Finally, and this goes back to my first point, people with a rich mindset understand that if you help people and you improve their life, you take money from them, that becomes a case study. So now you can get more people. Like people shit on pharma companies all the time, but a lot of what pharma companies have done in the last few years has been fantastic and miraculous, right? Somebody like me is healthy because of pharma companies. And there are plenty other people like that. Just ask somebody in your family with cancer how therapeutics have improved over the years. And obviously, if you've made somebody's life better, take money from them. Money is a measure of contribution. It's an IOU. You help someone, you take money from them. Whereas people with a poor mindset, the broke mindset, believe that the only way to make money is to take it from people. It's like gangsters and thugs, right? I beat you up, I take money from you. They think that Jeff Bezos,
बैटरी क्या है
with all his capital,
इसमें चार्ज नहीं
has
था मुझे
actually
ऐसा लगा ये बाहर निकल रही है और
workers
कुछ
and
नहीं
taken money from them. Whereas it's a free market. If people don't like Jeff's company, they're free to go to the next company and work at whatever rates, right? So Jeff has no responsibility to try and pay these guys amazing amounts of money. He's just like, this is the kind of money we're paying. It's a free market. This is our price. If you don't like our price, you can go out and take the next price. And still a lot of workers choose Amazon over everybody else. Why is that so? Because you realize that many of these workers actually have livelihoods and employments. At the scale Amazon hires people, there's so much employment being created. You're not taking from people, you're creating for people. You're helping them. And when you help them, they will give you money. When you help so many customers at this scale, they give you money. They're like, this is adding convenience to my life. Here, take some more money. And the more money Jeff Bezos makes from these customers, he's able to pay his employees more. That's how a free market works. You have to understand. You set a price, only if people are interested in this price, they join. If it's too low, they do not join. You're not stealing from anybody. But that's the broke mindset. They believe that everybody's stealing, anybody successful and rich has stolen, has been a thug. It's exhausting, honestly. And all I ask is get over your narcissism. Right? Change your mindset, maybe you change your life. That's it for me. Bye. Hit the subscribe button.